All right. Let me see what in the hell is going on with Greenland now. Oh, a few people actually sent me a few videos. The gist of it, it's all about the Golden Dome, our defenses and resources, and trade routes. That's what it's all about. Some people are talking about the U.S. should take it by force. I'm like, that's wild. What the hell? So let's see if I can hear some more about this.
Protests erupting in Greenland this weekend after President Trump announced new tariffs on 8 NATO allies opposing his plans to acquire the territory. That move sparking bipartisan reaction.
Damn. There we go. Tariffs, the most beautiful word in the world.
Greenland and the Danes have been our allies for a long time now. The president is the consummate deal maker, and I think he's looking for a deal.
Denmark, Greenland, the Kingdom of Denmark, that's our ally. It's our friend. So I'm puzzled by the president's threat of tariffs.
And he wants Greenland bad. Bad.
For more, let's bring in National Economic Council Director Kevin.
He could be right, but my whole thing is, I don't like that whole taking it by force thing. Maybe there's some things I just don't know or don't understand, and I'm willing to learn more about the situation. But I'm like, there's got to be some type of deal made. You know what I mean? Some type of deal can be made to use specific parts of, the land for this or for that. I'm like, there's got to be something that can be done if we need it for, protection. Like I said, the Golden Dome, certain, trade routes and certain defense of knowing when certain things are coming and going and,
Hassett, thank you so much for being with us, sir. Great to see you this morning. I want to start here. The president's tariff threat to these 8 NATO allies does appear to be potentially upending one of his signature achievements, the landmark trade deal with the EU that he struck in July. Listen here.
This is probably the biggest deal ever reached in any capacity, trade or beyond trade. I think it's the biggest deal ever made.
We have a deal. We have a trade deal between the 2 largest economies in the world. And it's a big deal. It's a huge deal.
What's that accent she got? I don't know if I've heard that one before. I might have to hear her talk longer. It says Turnberry, Scotland, but I don't know if it's a Scottish accent. Doesn't at first sound like it to me.
So this deal has been partially implemented, but it still hasn't cleared the European Parliament. Several members now are calling for 0% tariffs on U.S. products to be put on hold. And that deal also included $750 billion in energy purchases from the U.S., a $600 billion investment in the U.S., military purchases. Is all of that scrapped now that...
Yeah, he looks like my old chemistry teacher. I was like, why does this dude look so familiar to me? It ain't him, though.
The president appears to be putting an
He would be much older by now.
tariff over the deal that he made.
Right. Well, first of all, I want to say that throughout the negotiations with the Europeans last year, you would have heard them say, oh, if we have a tariff, if we do what President Trump says, it'll be terrible for our economies, you'll tank our economies. And if you go back and look that as we negotiated these great deals, both for the U.S. and for Europe, then their economies have boomed, their stock markets have boomed. It's been amongst the better years ever for them, because basically they see that the U.S. right now is once again the shining city on the hill, that we're the engine of global growth, and President Trump has accomplished that really in just 1 year. So I think right now, with respect to Greenland, the president has a strong view that it's a national security matter for the U.S. to have more control over Greenland, and I'm confident that in the end he's going to go negotiate a deal that's great for us and great for our partners.
So do these tariffs stack on top of the existing tariffs? And moreover, is he using IEEPA for that?
He's stacking them?
The court could make a ruling on that and potentially strike it down as early as this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've not been briefed on the legalities of the Greenland tariffs yet. That'll happen for me tomorrow morning. So.
Okay.
Only stack I know about, you stack You can stack some creatine. You get your fat burner. You got your pre-workout. You know what I'm saying? And that's a stack in itself. You know, I know about bodybuilding stacks. I didn't know you could stack tariffs.
The president obviously often escalates to de-escalate when he is deal making, but Europe is pretty outraged over this. These 8 states deployed their militaries as a symbolic defense against a NATO ally. The French president seemed to compare the U.S. to Russia even, saying, quote, "No intimidation nor threat will influence us, neither in Ukraine nor in Greenland." A Danish member of the European Parliament called this economic warfare and called to sanction, quote, Trump's oligarchs. If the EU sanctions American firms like banks or tech firms, Microsoft, Google, X, what kind of an impact could that have on the U.S. economy?
The one thing I've learned, Jackie, is that when you are engaged in negotiation with any country and with President Trump, that you'll see both sides take very strong, extreme positions. But in the end, the president is the person who wrote the art of the deal because he's so good at deal making, and so I think right now it's really a good time for cooler heads to prevail, and for us to disregard the rhetoric and get to the table and see if there can't be a deal that's worked out that's best for everybody.
Okay, this week the president appeared to take you out of the running for Fed chair. Here's what he said:
Protests in Iran, protests in Minnesota, protests in Greenland.
I see Kevin's in the audience, and I just want to thank you. You were fantastic on television today. I actually want to keep you where you are, if you want to know the truth. Kevin Hassett is so good. You don't want to lose him, Susie.
Are you still in the mix for Fed chair?
First, I got to say, it was like really, I was so humbled and gratified by what the president had to say about me. He's such a good guy.
He's extremely polite.
So gracious towards his staff. From the beginning, he and I have talked about whether it's better for me to be here in the West Wing or over at the Fed. I don't think he's made a final call on that. But I got to say that I'm even humbled still, perhaps, to be in the running with the other people like Rick Reeder, who is the person that manages like $3 trillion in debt. He's one of the biggest bond market guys in the world. Kevin Warsh, who's been at the Fed before. Chris Waller, who's at the Fed now.
I'll tell you this. I mean, I would hope that we would be able to strike some type of deal, because you don't know what the hell these other countries are doing. You know, it's better to be safe than sorry, you know. So whether we have Greenland or not may not be the issue. It's just having certain strategic points covered in Greenland for us to be able to do what we need to be able to do to protect ourselves, defend ourselves, and, strike some type of deal. Because like I said, it's going to be about resources. And with the ice melting, it's going to be about trade routes sooner or later, stuff like that. So just peacefully do it, please.
A lot of great candidates, and it could well be that the president's right to make the decision that this is the best place for me right now. We've got so much to do in this White House. And I would add that you saw how much we accomplished last year. Everybody talks about how a record accomplishment at Uzi. I'm talking about people, so the great team.
One more question on Fed chair, because I do want to get to Davos. But a couple Senate Republicans said this week that they would not confirm any nominee until the investigation into Jerome Powell is over. Tom Tillis said, quote, "I wouldn't consider my mother for the post under the current conditions."
I know that there's been some frustration about transparency of the cost overruns.
Sound like they ain't talking about Greenland no more. So, well, that's my Greenland news for today, unless something else comes out more about it. I'm going to check out some other stuff. Look like we got some Megyn Kelly video up next. What if the United States steals Greenland? This was 13 days ago. I'll check that one out. Good Lord. Post comments down below. Let me know what you all think. Fill me in on some stuff if I don't know it. Help me out here, you know what I'm saying? Through osmosis, I get it all and start to understand it more and more and more and more and more. You know what I'm saying? That's how it works. 10 million subscribers. Woo!